Bilbo Baggins once said, "But where our hearts truly lie is in peace and good-tilled earth, for all hobbits share a love of all things that grow, and no doubt to others our ways seem quaint. But today of all days it is brought home to me, it is no bad thing to celebrate a simple life." That, my friends, is the inspiration for today's episode in Proudbottom Hill. If you missed the start of the zoo, be sure to check that out as well. To continue, I needed to start on the entrance plaza of the zoo, which I avoid at all costs. So I've never done one, because entrance plazas make my head explode. My ideas get ahead of my skills, and if something scares me enough, I will avoid it, be disappointed in myself for not doing it, and end up with no ideas at all. But if you're gonna make Planet Zoo videos, it might be best to have an idea. So let's crack on with that. When Griscode uploaded his latest tutorial video, it got my rusty brain cogs working and I wanted to try it out. Seriously though, that video is a main inspiration for this episode. Should be called Griscode. Yeah, moving on. The goal is to have an entrance plaza where guests randomly roam around instead of mindlessly following your paths in herds like creepy robots that are going to take over the world. The trick is to make an interactive habitat, which means adding a barrier, a habitat gate, a guest gate, and a hand station. I chose to go for a null barrier and use the entirety of elephant grass available in the African grasslands and sink it into the ground. That way you can imprison your animals. And I added chickens because they're becoming my favorites in the game. Oh, there he goes, and another chicken appears. Oh my god, what is happening? And lo and behold, it actually worked. Which surprised me, because 90% of what I do in this game doesn't work out. The guests now roam around without a care in the world. Honestly, same. I love the way it looks though, it's fully integrated into the nature now, so in truth you don't need a path at all. Which is great, because a path in this game will actually make me lose my mind one day. Now that the mechanics worked out, which still baffles me, it was time to add scenery and theming. So I did what everyone would do when they don't know what to add to an entrance plaza and picked out the largest chunky tree I liked and slapped it in the middle. There we have it. Thank you for watching my first entrance plaza, and be sure to... no, that'd be too easy. Let's find more inspiration from our little hobbits. They live simple, quiet lives and farm the land. They grow food, and eating it occupies most of the time of hobbits. They laughed, ate and drank often and heartily. I wanted to incorporate the love hobbits have for nature and food into the plaza, so I thought of making some kind of farmer's market. I mean, the new rustic theme in the game just begs you to do it. And for us who only have a lower skill to build in this game, there's a blueprint that Frontier made for the pack. I tinkered on it so it could fit the shop counter and guests wouldn't have to walk through it, and I think it looks cute in action. Then I added a second stand with the souvenir plushies, which I also think look very cute. Yes, I am very easy to please. Also a first for me is using these draperies. I haven't been playing enough with them, so I started adding them and colored them in a few earthy tones. As in real life, I'd like to have some shade on a market. I don't want to get sunburned, because I am very easily sunburned. I'm a tomato. And then of course the usual, which is spamming the grass all over, and for the first time I am using the leaves that you can put on the ground, because I thought it looked a bit natural that if you have a large ass tree in the middle of a plaza, then perhaps there are many leaves on the ground. Yeah, I think about this a lot. I am very smart. And I also added a flower corner, because all books and movies about hobbits definitely focus on flowers and nature. And I wanted it to look lush. And I just wanted a reason to add flowers, because if I'm out of inspiration, I add flowers. Yeah, this is me checking out the chickens again, because I really love the way they are looking right now. I did decide that I want to make this a chop series, which means I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. Not to say that I don't want to make an effort, I do hope that's not how it comes off, but I know myself and I either get overwhelmed or distracted, and that doesn't help in finishing things. So I want to accomplish something by finishing a zoo. Confession, I never finished a zoo. Yeah, All that to say, I generally want to finish off areas of the zoo and continue to the next without having to come back a lot. So I tackled the staff area next to the plaza and wanted to continue the waterfall that I made in the previous episode, which I kind of regret now because the water and terrain mechanics are a pain to live with. But I think I managed something in the end, at least not something that I hate. I do want to continue on a stream of water throughout the zoo, and I think water always adds a nice touch to a zoo, although I definitely need to practice with it. And of course, I wanted to make more holes. Hobbit holes. Because you can't have a Hobbit zoo without holes. I don't know how many times I'm gonna say holes, but I like saying holes. I used some photos that people have posted from New Zealand and I tried to hide the staff facilities into the ground again, which I think I'm getting the hang of it. The tricky thing was hiding the facilities under a roof of greenery that would blend into the terrain, but I found that if I use the grass patches with some foliage on top of it, it actually works. It's the same ones I used on the entrance building as well, so it does come together nicely that way. It's a bit cohesive. Okay, and this is like the stupidest thing to exist, but I added smoke to the chimneys now, and I think that's such a little cute touch. It might not seem big, but I was so proud that I added this detail, and I absolutely love the way it looks. It looks lived in, if that makes sense. I also started detailing the plaza again because I wanted to make the chickens happy. And I used a tip I learned from one of Gunther's videos, which is to disable terrain functions and sink the forage thingy in the ground and kind of make it a bit muddy instead of having a huge intrusive sandbox in your habitat. And then the most shocking thing happened, which is I added even more detail that I would have never expected myself to do, and I added a swing to the random tree that I slapped down in the middle of the plaza. I think I just needed the tree to have a purpose. And then I added a larger river that goes into a lake and added a bridge to make the connection to the next part of the zoo. And I messed around with that bridge for a while, but I think I managed to get something in the end. And I also wanted to make the terrain more uneven, so I also tried to make a smaller hill, since that's what Hobbiton is all about. And of course, more foliage. I'm really enjoying putting foliage in this zoo. I've been trying to add more foliage that I've never used before because I tend to use the same thing all over again. But I'm really trying to move my boundaries, if that's how you say it. Then I didn't like how this area looked because it looks too crowded, so I decided to remove some holes. Which is a sentence I wouldn't expect myself to say. But yeah, this was a result of not being able to sleep because I tend to overthink a lot when I need to sleep, which is also the reason I won't sleep. Because in the middle of the random night I will have ideas for this game and I won't be able to do them because I actually want to sleep because I'm tired. Is there a name for that? But I think it turned out nicer than before. I don't know how to explain it, but it feels less forced, a bit more natural, into the nature again. Look, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually really proud of what I'm doing here. I'm not the best builder, but I'm proud of myself for continuing this zoo with an actual theme that I love. That does help. Throughout this build, I also kept thinking of Bilbo's birthday party, so I also decided I wanted to add lights for nighttime. And I think it worked out really well. I also built a small chicken coop thingy outside because I thought this spot next to the flower stand was getting a bit empty, and I added eggs because damn, there's lots of chickens, so people need to get them eggs. And don't ask me why, but I added a sign that people can take free eggs. Yes, I'm feeling generous. And I also added more stands because the other side of the plaza felt equally empty now, so I spammed a lot of the fruits we have from the market pieces. And since I wanted it to look like Bilbo's birthday party, I added some flags as well, and I think it adds some dynamics into the plaza instead of just one tree in the middle with random stands around it. I don't know, I think it pulls it together. And more detailing to add a bench. I couldn't add an in-game bench because I don't have a path in the plaza. And can I just say it's so fun to build while the chickens are walking around? It feels like I'm not alone in this game. I did the interior of the entrance building off camera for two reasons. First, I don't like being watched. Who does, right? I mean, okay, a few people like that, but each their own. It's just that it adds a bit of pressure sometimes, knowing that you're recording this and it will go on the internet. And I want to do well for you guys, so sometimes it scares me. Yes, a lot of scaring in this video. But it sometimes helps when you're on your own. The second reason is that I really had no inspiration for this building at the time, and I didn't want to spend too much time on this since it's not going to be used that often. I added a modular shop and an information point, and some benches to be done with it. I have to admit, this was a low day for me. I had a lot of insecurities about my videos at this point, and I was scared to be vulnerable. Dear God, that's a hard word to say. I built the interior before the entrance plaza and came back to it because I didn't like it anymore. So I removed the modular shop and made a chicken coop because the little prison I built outside had almost no traversable area, and I think the chickens weren't amused. I made it into an area where people can collect their eggs with the help of an employee. We have a lot of chickens, so I'm guessing there's a lot of eggs. And it would explain the sign outside, so it came together. In the end, I was happy that I changed it. And there we have it, my very first entrance plaza in Planet Zoo. I'm glad I got over my fear for it and that the chickens were keeping me company. I already have a plan for what I'm going to do in the next episode, but I still need to decide which animal I'm going to add. So, what's your favorite?